Hello, grade 7 students. Good morning. History, chapter 4, the Mughal Empire. Mughal traditions of succession. The Mughals did not believe in the rule of primogeniture, the system by which where the eldest son inherited his father's estate. That means all the property will go to the first son, that is the eldest son. Instead, they followed the Mughal and the Timurid customs co-parcenary inheritance. It is the meaning that all of them can have the share or a division of the inheritance amongst all the sons. So the Mughal and the Timurid customs, they used to divide the property for all the sons. Follow the highlighted passage in table 1 and note the evidence for the rebellion by the Mughal princes. Which do you think is a father fairer division inheritance, primogeniture or co-parency? So co-parency. Primogeniture means the system by which all the property from a father passes on to his eldest son. So all the property will go to the eldest son. Is this correct? Or co-parency means they will divide the share for all the children. How many sons are there? All the children will get his father's property. Which one is best? Which do you think, children? Okay. We will feel it is fairer for the co-parency only. Next, Mughal relations with other rulers. Take a look at table once again. You will notice that the Mughal rulers campaigned constantly against the rulers who refused to accept their authority. So the Mughal rulers constantly they were against the rulers who refused to accept their authority. They forced them. But the Mughals became powerful. Many other rulers also joined them voluntarily. So the Mughals became powerful when the other rulers joined them voluntarily. They accepted the authority. The Rajputs are a good example of this. Many of them married their daughters into Mughal families and received high positions. But many resisted as well. So, for example, we can say the Rajputs, the Chittur. So, the Rajput girls are given marriage with the Mughal families. The Muslim families used to take the girls, that is for marriage, they will take girls from the Rajput families. And then the Rajput families will receive high positions in the Mughal families. But many resisted means many of them opposed. Okay, they did not accept it. Many of them opposed passively and they do not oppose it. Some of them oppose, some of them do not oppose it. The Sisodia Rajputs of Mewar refused to accept Mughal authority for a long time. So one of the Rajput was Sisodia Rajputs of Mewar. Mewar means we can see here Mewar, Malwa we can see here, and then Ajmer, Gujarat, then Bijapur, Golconda, Orissa, Gondwana, Bengal, Allahabad, and we see Mewar in this place. Once defeated, however, they were honorably treated by the Mughals. Once if any kings or any other Rajputs are defeated, they were treated honorably and given their lands Vatakan back as assignment. Vatan means Jagir. So they will give in charge whatever they get from them. In the defeat, they will treat them honorably by giving the lands back to them itself. And they are given a posting called Jagir posting. It is called Vatan. The careful balance between defeating but not humiliating their opponents enabled the Mughals to extend their influence over many kings and chieftains. So, even though they are successful in the war. They treated the opponents very honorably. They will never insult them. And because of that, they were able to influence over many other kings because of their treating well the opponents, the opposite person. But it was difficult to keep up this balance all the time. But they cannot maintain the same honorable throughout for a long time. Look at table 1 again. Note the Aurangzeb insulted Shivaji when he came to accept Mughal authority. What was the consequence of this result? So now we can see that table 1 already we discussed in the class that Aurangzeb and about Shivaji. Aurangzeb wanted Shivaji to accept his authority in his kingdom. But Shivaji also, when he was going to accept Mughal's authority, Aurangzeb cunningly made a trick. That is Afzal Khan. Okay, Afzal Khan is a very cunning person, is a cunning general. He wanted to imprison Shivaji. So what was the result? There was war. And we see the Mansabdars and Jagirdars. Mansabdars means we can say that they are the military general or they are in the rank of government and official. Okay, they are in the ranks and they are the government officials. Jagirdars means Jamindar. Okay, they are Jamindars. We know they are landowners. As the empire expanded to encompass different regions, the Mughal recruited diverse bodies of people. So as the empire expanded, the surroundings became different regions. The surrounding was with the different regions. The Mughal recruited, they selected the people from different, okay, it was a diverse bodies. In the military, people of different communities, different regions were selected. From a small nucleus of Turkish nobles, Taranis, they expanded to include Iranians, Indian Muslims, Afghans, Rajputs, Marathas and other groups. So, by like this, they selected people from the different regions such as the Iranians, Indian Muslims, Afghans, Rajputs, Marathas and also those who joined Mughal service were enrolled as Mansabdars. Mansabdars means they are government official. So, those who joined voluntarily, they are given the posting as a government officer. The term Mansabdar refers to an individual who holds a Mansab, meaning a position or rank. So Mansab means rank. It was a grading system used by the Mughals to fix. Okay, what is the work of the Mansabs? They have to fix rank, salary, military responsibilities. Rank and salary were determined by numerical value called Zat. So the people used to, the Mansabs fixed the salary and they have military responsibilities. And the ranks and salaries were determined by the numerical value. Now we are having rupees. In those days there was called Zat. The higher the Zat, the more prestigious was the noble position in the court and larger his salaries. So the person who is working in the court received more salary and he was in a prestigious position. He was very respectful and honorable person. Next we are going to see that the Mansabdar military responsibilities required him to maintain a specified number of savar or cavalrymen. The Mansabdar brought his cavalrymen for review, got them registered, their horses branded and then received money to pay them as salary. So the Mansabdars having a military responsible, he required to maintain a specified number of savar or the cavalrymen. Okay, he needs a person who want to take care of the horses and the military responsibility. The Mansabdar brought his cavalrymen for review. He brought them for a review. They came again and then they registered them and their horses and also their branded horses, what type of horses they were having, and then they received money to pay them as salary. Mansabdars received their salaries as a revenue assignment called Jagirs, which were somewhat like iktas. But unlike Maktis, most Mansabdars did not actually reside in or administer the Jagirs. They only had rights to revenue of their assignments, which was collected for them by their servants, while the Mansabdars themselves served in some part of the country. They were also working. Look at the figure 5.5. This figure tells us that the Mansabdar is marching with his savers, the soldiers. And this figure 5.6 tells us how they receive the salary. See here children, they collect it from the farmers. See here, they collect it from the farmers and then here they give it to the king. See here, they receive and then they collect and give to the king. This is how they collected the revenue. So in today's class we learned Mughals' traditions of succession, Mughals' relations with the rulers, Mansabdars and Jagirdars. Thank you children.